When clarity arrives quietly, there is a moment most people don't talk about. Not the moment when things finally make sense. Not the moment when you figure it out. But the moment after that. The moment when clarity settles in. And instead of relief, you feel something heavier, quieter, almost disorienting. Because clarity doesn't arrive like hope does. It doesn't rush in. It doesn't comfort you. Clarity is calm. And calm can feel unsettling when you've lived inside emotional noise for a long time. I remember the first time this happened to me. Nothing dramatic took place. No argument. No clear ending. Just a quiet understanding that arrived one night and refused to leave. I finally saw a situation for what it was, not what I wanted it to become, not what I kept explaining it into. And that's when it hurt. Not because the truth was cruel, but because it was simple. And simplicity leaves nowhere to hide. The illusions that kept you going. Most of us grow up believing clarity is the reward. If you wait long enough, if you try hard enough, if you think it through one more time, eventually things will become clear. And when they do, you'll finally feel lighter. That's the promise we're given. That clarity equals peace. That understanding equals closure. That knowing the truth will somehow heal everything. But what rarely gets mentioned is that clarity doesn't just bring understanding. It brings finality, and finality can feel like loss. Because clarity doesn't negotiate. It doesn't soften itself to protect your feelings. It simply shows you what is. And sometimes, what is means you can no longer pretend. You can't pretend someone will change. You can't pretend effort alone will fix what was never mutual. You can't pretend the story you've been telling yourself still holds. The painful part isn't losing something real. It's losing the illusion that kept you moving forward. Hope can be a shelter, stories can be a shelter, and clarity quietly removes that shelter, not to hurt you, but because it's honest. Why clarity feels lonely. Clarity isolates you in a subtle way, not because people disappear, but because your inner world changes. When you see clearly, you stop needing constant validation, you stop rehearsing explanations, and suddenly, conversations feel different. You notice how often people speak to avoid silence, how often they distract themselves from what they already know, how rarely they sit with uncomfortable truths, and you begin to feel out of sync, not superior, not detached, just quieter. Clarity doesn't make you louder, it makes you more selective. You talk less, not because you have nothing to say, but because not everything needs to be said anymore. And in a world that equates noise with connection, that quiet can feel lonely. Seeing yourself without excuses. One of the most uncomfortable parts of clarity is that it doesn't stop with other people. It turns inward. You begin to see your own patterns, the compromises you made, the boundaries you ignored, the moments you abandon your instincts to keep peace. And there's no one else to blame for that. That's where clarity really hurts. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You recognize when you're overgiving. You recognize when you're staying out of fear, not love. You recognize when you're tolerating something simply because it's familiar. Clarity doesn't force you to change, but it removes the excuse not to. And that responsibility can feel heavy when you've been surviving on emotional momentum for years. Why clarity doesn't look dramatic. Movies make clarity look like a breakthrough, a dramatic realization, a bold decision, a clean turning point. Real clarity is rarely cinematic. It's subtle. It's waking up one day and realizing you're no longer angry, just certain. It's noticing that the urge to explain yourself has faded, that the questions you used to obsess over no longer demand answers. It's recognizing that calm has replaced chaos. And at first, that calm can feel uncomfortable because you've spent so long navigating by emotion, by reaction, by hope. That quiet certainty feels unfamiliar, but unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. The quiet peace after resistance. Clarity doesn't ask you to do more. It doesn't ask you to confront everyone. It doesn't ask you to rebuild your life overnight. Most of the time, clarity asks you to do less. Less explaining, less forcing, less chasing alignment where there isn't any. It asks you to stop interfering with reality. And if you sit with that long enough, something unexpected happens. The pain softens, not because things magically improve, but because resistance fades. You stop arguing with what is. You stop replaying conversations that don't need revisiting. You stop searching for alternate meanings. And in that stillness, peace doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives like relief, the kind that lets you breathe. The cost and the gift of clarity. Not everyone wants clarity, and that's important to understand. Without judgment, clarity demands honesty with yourself first, and not everyone is ready to let go of the stories that protect them from discomfort. So if you've ever felt misunderstood for choosing clarity over chaos, you're not broken. You're just no longer playing the same game. Yes, clarity hurts because it closes doors you were emotionally attached to, because it removes illusions that once kept you warm, because it asks you to stand on your own understanding. But clarity also gives something rare: integrity, alignment, the ability to live without constantly negotiating with yourself. The pain of clarity is temporary. The cost of avoiding it is ongoing. And once you experience that quiet alignment, you realize something important. You didn't lose yourself by seeing clearly. You found yourself by stopping the escape. If you're someone who feels things quietly, thinks deeply, and doesn't always know where to put those thoughts, you're in the right place.